Hello, and welcome to Tea Talk. This is a collaboration mental health series where I talk to different YouTubers and talk about what mental health means to them. So today I'm with Mija.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about mental health triggers and the differences in those in different mental illnesses and how to deal with those triggers and what happens. So we were talking about our differences in mental health. So I come from a side of eating disorders, but you come from
a side of bullying and like just panic attacks and anxiety from that.
Have you noticed like what are the differences, do you think?
I think the differences are in the way that the triggers come on. Obviously yours comes on more from food, dieting, etc., whereas mine comes on from confrontation, people being rude, just like the way people phrase things instead of the way that maybe they show things. I think that's a difference.
Which is really true. There's also a similarity in that where where people phrase things. So definitely if people just go in like a bull in a china shop and use all your trigger words, like say healthy, unhealthy, or good or bad in terms of food or
the
body.
Word diet, that's always a good one.
And diet is always one at the moment, particularly
around
January. Definitely, it's the way people phrase things that your brain immediately switches or latches onto them.
Of course, I agree with you in the sense that with the bullying and stuff, and in a way that sort of affects me with words such as diet and healthy, unhealthy and things like that. If you cross with that with the bullying aspect of being overweight when you're younger and that sort of part. Definitely. So I suppose that's a trigger to do with bullying as well.
How do you know like when your triggers?
I know triggers coming on, especially it's more to do with the fact that if I'm working like with uni work, if I can't do something, I feel stupid because of it. So whereas when I was at school and during it, but I was quite good at keeping my grades up. It's the only thing that was decent and consistent. Whereas because I kept them up, kept it all brilliant and everything, people would take that and go, you're a nerd, you're a teacher's pet, you're this, you're that. So whenever I feel that I can't do something, it's more of a case of, I can't do it. But I'm so used to being able to do it. Oh, now everyone's going to think I'm useless, I'm this, I'm that. Like, that's the trigger, so I get frustrated at myself. For example, we had an in-class test, and as I was doing it, I was doing my results, it was fine, and it got to a stage where I was writing it out. Okay, let's put it in the calculator. No, something's not right, that's wrong. And I kept going over and over going, I've done the question right, I know I've done the equation right, it's fine. I had a whole breakdown in the in-class test. I was in tears, couldn't breathe properly, I was just struck because I was getting so frustrated with myself. Turns out it was a simple mistake, I forgot brackets, but it was more a case of I was just getting frustrated because I couldn't work out where I'd gone wrong, and I was just frustrating myself. So the whole trigger of it just wasn't right and I didn't do it right, and getting told, no, this is wrong, you've done it wrong, or people not explaining themselves. I swear that's where my triggers come from.
It reminds me when I get stressed, which I did previously last year. I had to get 2 essays done for university, and they were both really close together in November. And I thought, right, that's it. Last year, in my first year, I knew that if I do it 2 weeks in advance, it means I have a week to look at it and then send it off. But I didn't know what to do for that essay, but I went, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. But because it wasn't explained properly to us, if you've ever tried to write through stress, it's you might as well not bother, because your brain just goes, it's like mud, you're wading through mud to try and get to what you want to write. Me, it's going back to, first year Eleanor would have known what to do. First year Eleanor would have done this and would have done that.
It's you would have known how to do this when you were back in school. And now you're in uni, you don't know anything. It's it's a nagging feature. I know that I've just gone, nah, fuck this, I can't do it. Gotten up and I'm going out for a walk, and watch my mum go, what do you mean you're going for a walk? Can't look at this screen anymore, it's near my head in, I'm going out for a walk, I just can't do it. And she just laughs at me okay, I'll see you soon. And I come back, she's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'll go look at the screen now, it's fine.
No, but it was the first time, and I had to get my friend to message me being it's okay, it's fine, you can't write when you're stressed, we'll do it in Costa, which was our favourite thing. Write an essay in Costa. It's the best thing we've ever done. The best, all our best grades have happened in Costa. but because I got stressed, it internalised into my body, because it's an immediate thing to go, whack, let's go back to what you used to get stressed about, and I haven't had an issue about it. But since I get stressed, I immediately internalise.
I think that's how some triggers are the same. Obviously, they differ between the way that you see things and do things. Obviously, even though they're similar triggers because of stress and because of trigger words or things like that. Even just triggers where you haven't been triggered at the time. This is another similarity, I think. But correct me if I'm wrong, if it differs from yours. How you could be... They could have said something that would normally trigger you, but your brain's just gone, yeah, don't need to think about it now. It'll just work up and work up and work up. And you'll get to a point where you're near your threshold of cracking. And you haven't had any, like, warning, panic attacks, whatever, like, triggers. And it'll get to this point that someone will say something and you just crack. It could just be you've done something accidentally wrong. Like, I don't know, for example, I accidentally almost cut myself the other day on an umbrella. And I just got frustrated at myself because I was like, oh, I've just cut myself on an epoxy umbrella. This is not it. Had enough. And I just almost had a breakdown in the tube station because I was just like, because I just reached the breaking point where that one little thing that would normally just be like, oh, okay, I cut myself, let's deal with it. I've just gone, no, I'm not having this, and just lost it. Here's a good question for you. Do you remember the first time you were, like, triggered? Like, I remember the first time I had a panic attack, but which was, say, my trigger that caused them to start. Do you remember the first time you had yours?
I remember there was a switch that flicked.
One of those.
The Olympic Park, Stratford, September 2012. There, and I remember it so clearly.
Okay.
We were walking around the park. We'd just been to see the Paralympics. And Mum asked us for an ice cream, and I was in this already, like, diet mentality already.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. And so then my brain, for some reason, I don't have any logic for it. It just switched, and I, for the first time, said no. Like, no, I don't want it. And you know what? And then I just suddenly came out with this diet that I'd made up by myself. From September onwards, I was in this complete diet mentality by myself. But that's when it all, like, started. And then another massive trigger for it to go, for it to
go
explode,
full blood, yeah.
was when my body decided that it wanted more sugar than than I thought it needed. But actually there was a biological reason as to why. And I thought, oh no, if I, like, binge now, then that's all my hard work has gone to waste. And boom,
It just went...
Everything, like, turbo speeded itself down a train track.
The one that started everything for me, I can't remember whether it was before or after a massive incident happened, which I won't go into. I'd been bullied for a while by this girl. She really didn't like me, and she got a few people that I'd gone to school with previously to not gang up on me, but to make it a little bit harder. And I remember I'd just gone with the only person that I had as a friend at the time. We'd just gone to speak to this teacher. We'd had a decent conversation about it, and then when we got out, we came across, and there was a pond in the school. There was her in the middle, in the distance, and right around her there must have, I say 50, it's probably more like 25 people were with her, and they came charging at me like a stampede, like, you know the scene in The Lion King with the massive stampede?
Yeah.
It was like that. And I can remember them running at me and this girl that I was with, and she just attached onto the back of my backpack that I had at the time and started trying to pull on it and to pull me to the ground so she could beat me up, essentially.
Oh, God.
And there's loads of people around her, like, trying to egg her on, and I'm getting in a state of, like, I need to get out of here. And this playground assistant, I was 11 at the time, came over and, like, pulled me away from everyone, put me in a room. And I can remember, like, tears streaming down my, like, I was shaking, I was, like, in a massive panic attack. And they put me in this room with these two sofas, and I just refused both sofas and sat on the floor. I just was in, like, a state of shock. So that was what triggered, even though the bullying happened and I was already triggered from it, from, like, comfort eating, and the triggered the panic attacks and the anxiety of people and meeting new people and doing certain things. That's what I can remember. I look back on it and go, fuck, that was awful. Oh, so when they happen now, they're not as explosive as that, but they're still the same. I still get the same, like, pains and stuff, and just freak. With that situation and the rest of the bullying, and over the years as it went, my mental health got progressively worse because of it, but also many staff members including like head teachers and stuff, apart from one who got me out of the shithole that I call it, of hell, because they just saw it as rudimentary bullying, not the mental health side that went with it. So it's a difficult thing with mental health. Obviously we're talking about the differences and the triggers and stuff, but obviously it becomes more triggering when staff members haven't been really educated in it and only see the bullying physical side of it, not the mental side. And so I suppose that becomes a trigger in itself when staff and things just go,
Do you feel like if you can't like stop your trigger from happening and it's already freaking gone, the emotional build up of that?
So the emotional build up can be in, I find, two ways for me. You've got the one where it just goes over time and then I crack at anything, or you've got the one where they just push. I've had a trigger that's nothing to do with bullying, nothing to do at all, and I can remember it because I got so drunk. That's how I dealt with it. But it was a family thing. The year before something happened with this guy, and it wouldn't work out between us, and it came to exactly a year to the day, and some family came around who'd been there at the time that it happened, and they asked me a couple of questions like, oh, are you seeing anyone? And I was like, no, don't want to discuss it, let's just leave it there. And they carried on insisting, and I went, look, I'm getting to the point where you're making me a bit upset now, you're going to mention it again, I'm going to sit here and cry. And they mentioned it again, obviously not thinking it was just me being, because I can say things like that, and to me it's a joke, that's how I deal with it. But I said it, and I literally just burst into tears. Like, I was so upset, so I came myself off and I dealt with it by drinking a lot. I don't do that as a way of dealing with all my triggers, but at the time that was just the case of how I dealt with it, because that's the place that I was in. Whereas now with some triggers I deal with it with comedy. I specifically went to a couple of comedy gigs on my own because comedy's how I deal with all the problems that I have. So if I don't want to face them or don't want to deal with how the trigger works, I can just go and watch comedy on the laptop or on the TV or whatever for a couple of hours, and that part of the trigger will just disappear and I won't forget, and it will just start from the beginning. So if I've got a build-up trigger, if I know I'm getting to the point, a breaking point, or I'm going to break, watching comedy just takes it back to 0 again, so that before it gets to 100. And then you've got the other sort of trigger, which is where it will be my self-inflicted trigger. So I inflict it on myself, not someone inflicting it on me, where it's built up. So it's where, like, for example, I couldn't work out where I'd gone wrong and just had a breakdown, or where someone's gone, okay, you've got it wrong in class, or you're not understanding where I'm coming from, and me trying to understand's making it worse for me, so I'm inflicting it because I think I'm doing wrong, or I don't. Like, that's how my triggers come in. Because with the bullying aspect of it, it sounds like I'm being bullied. They're not, they're just trying to be helpful and help me out, but my brain's switching it to something it's not.
I remember this was like definitely diet talk, but it was Christmas, I made cakes, and I was already a bit like, about it. It's at a time where we're like, should I do it, should I not, and then my teacher would point blank refuse because he was like, oh no, I'm on a diet. But because I was already in that mentality already, when my breathing goes, and my heart goes down, 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 and then my brain is already on overload, like, oh, you're the only one that's doing it, you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it. I wanted to, right then and there, if society would allow it, just scream, just get up and just scream. And I was like, I just want to get back home after this lesson as soon as possible. I went back home and I just screamed into a pillow, which I did for most of my first year because it was the only way that I could scream. But also, like, I wouldn't alert anyone in my flat because we weren't close in my first year flat. I knew them, but we weren't close. And I was like, I don't want anyone knocking on the door and going, Eleanor, are you okay? Like, go away! I'm having my moment! Go! We're talking about comedy, and that is a really, like, for me, that was a really good one because everyone is laughing at something that you're, like, all seeing, and laughter's a really good endorphin.
Do you know what? There's joking about stuff that's very serious to people with mental health issues, such as attempted suicide and stuff like that. But if you can be in a room where you've, say, had that experience, or you know people that have had that experience, whatever it happens to be, and someone's saying something like that, you can laugh about it.
I'm in the belief that with mental health and comedy, if you do it tastefully, and you do it in a way where it's not like leaning on a stereotype and we're laughing at, like, someone's, like, demise in a really stereotypical way, then chances are, it's really funny.
And I'd rather joke with another comedian. Like, I openly said to Nick Helm, I was like, look, with my panic attacks and anxiety, I can listen to all your songs, which are both very dark, very sexual, very anything, and they just help calm me down, and they've helped, like, me stop with some of the triggers that I have. They've helped, like, control them. And he was very like, Oh, like really? Thank you. That means a lot. They say never meet your heroes, but I've met both Greg and Nick. They're just very funny and they're very lovely people, and I appreciate everything that they've done for me.
And that is a really lovely bit to stop on. So thank you, Misha, for being on this
You're welcome.
episode. It's been really nice to just talk about different triggers in general.
And I think we covered everything that we needed to cover.
I think so, definitely. So thank you so much for watching. We have been drinking just original Tetley's tea, and I will see you in the next episode of Tea Talk.
Bye.
Bye!